From losing their temper to getting shot for no reasons, these are the times cops take things too far. In June 2021, in St. Petersburg, Florida, 2 police officers are caught on body cam outside a convenience store. Their attention is fixed on a man in a wheelchair, 64-year-old Timothy Grant. The convenience store manager had called the police to remove Grant from the premises because he was soliciting money from customers. But when the officers approached Grant, they quickly discovered that he had 5 outstanding warrants for failing to appear in court.
All right, dude, you got a warrant for your arrest because you fought with a law enforcement officer.
No.
And you had a court date and you never showed up to the court date.
I got a court date.
They attempted to apprehend him, but Grant was not willing to go with them. He kept asking what he had done wrong, and when they tried to get him to stand and walk towards the police car, he stumbled and ended up on the ground.
Yeah, I'm walking. What I did wrong, though?
I told you have a warrant for your arrest.
Wrong for my foot.
All right,
What I did?
Even as he lay there, Grant continued to protest his innocence. But
Arrest for what? I did nothing wrong.
You have a warrant for your arrest.
I want from arrest. Arrest for what?
But Officer Matthew Cavender interpreted his actions as resisting arrest, and things took a dark turn. At some point, Cavender ordered Grant to put his hand behind his back. He then pulled out a taser gun and warned Grant that he would be tased if he didn't comply.
You're about to get tased.
Arrest for what?
Stop, you're going to get tased.
I did nothing wrong.
Despite Grant's continued protests, Cavender shocked him 4 times with the taser, causing him to writhe in agony.
Put your hand behind your back.
Okay, what's going on, though?
It's a disturbing scene, but one of the highlights of the complexities of law enforcement and the power dynamics at play in interactions between police officers and civilians. On May 10, 2020, 2 Buffalo police officers pulled over Quentin Suttles and his female passenger on Madison and Eagle Streets for what should have been a routine traffic stop. But things quickly spiraled out of control. On the police body camera footage, one of the officers can be heard asking about marijuana in the car.
You got your ID on you? None in the car, a little bit of marijuana, is there? No. Where are you guys trying to get to?
But Suttles denies having anything on him. Hoping to avoid escalating the situation, Suttles voluntarily got out of the car with his hands in the air while one of the officers searched him. The search itself quickly became invasive and uncomfortable as the officers seemed to touch Suttles' private areas.
A permit? You have your license though? You got anything in your pants, man? That's you? Is this you?
No, that's me.
That's you?
Me.
Okay.
They seemed convinced that he was trying to swallow drugs, and so they quickly tackled him to the ground. Suttles kept pleading with them, insisting that he had nothing on him. He even asked his female passenger to record the incident.
I don't have nothing, man. Yo, baby, please. Yo, baby, can you please record this, baby?
You doing what?
But things only got worse. The officers pinned Suttles to the ground and repeatedly punched him in the face. It was a shocking scene, and Suttles' face soon began to bleed from the brutality of the attack. Looking at this incident, it's clear that officers could have approached the situation with more patience and professionalism, rather than immediately assuming that Suttles was guilty of something. On October 21, 2018, a dramatic scene unfolded in Akron's Goodyear Heights neighborhood. Across the street, a witness captured a disturbing video that showed 2 Akron police officers struggling on the ground with a man who was clearly not going down without a fight. One of them repeatedly shocked the man with a taser and yelled at him to stop moving, but he kept struggling. After a few minutes, 2 more police officers arrived on the scene and joined the struggle. They pinned the man to the ground, and one officer jumped on his back and began to pummel him with punches. As it turned out, the man in question was 48-year-old Patrick King, and the officers claimed they had seen him leaving a known drug location in the area. King allegedly provided a false identity and began to resist when officers tried to handcuff him.
When the officers got one handcuff on him, he then began to fight with them. The subject was 6'4", 220 pounds. He outweighed both the officers on scene, and they struggled with him for several minutes on the ground. He hasn't followed any of our verbal commands. They tried tasing him with no success.
But what could have been a routine arrest turned into a chaotic and violent confrontation that required 6 officers to eventually subdue King. He was charged with drug abuse and resisting arrest, but the incident raised serious questions about police use of force and the proper way to handle non-compliant suspects. On November 9, 2019, Sophia Newman, a New York City-based actor, captured a video at the Broadway Junction stop in Brooklyn that has since gone viral. The footage shows multiple police officers surrounding a distressed woman, simply identified as Elsa. Elsa had committed the crime of selling churros without a license in the subway. Newman questioned the officers about the reasons for the woman's arrest.
Right now?
What's she doing?
Ma'am, just back now. It's illegal to sell food inside the subway stations, and we warned her multiple times that she doesn't want to give it up.
According to the police, Elsa had received 10 summons in the last 5 months for selling food without a license at the same stop.
That's it.
Can she just go outside and keep her stuff?
No.
Despite her inquiries, Elsa was handcuffed and led out of the subway while an officer dragged her churro cart up the stairs. Although Elsa was released within minutes after her arrest, the police still seized her property as evidence. On December 21, 2016, a tense confrontation was captured on camera in a residential neighborhood. A uniformed officer can be seen talking to a man on a sidewalk before approaching a woman identified as Jacqueline Craig. She tells the officer that her young son was assaulted by their neighbor after he complained about the boy littering on the ground. When the officer asked why she didn't teach her son not to litter, Jacqueline argued that it was irrelevant and that her neighbor had no right to put his hands on her child.
On my son.
Why don't you teach your son not to litter?
He can't prove to me that my son littered. But it doesn't matter if he did or didn't. It doesn't give him the right to put his hands on it.
As the tension built, Jacqueline's 15-year-old daughter tried to step in between the officer and her mother, but things quickly got out of hand. The officer ended up wrestling Jacqueline to the ground and even pulled out a stun gun. Both Jacqueline and her daughter were handcuffed and put into a police car. All the while, the camera operator, another daughter of Jacqueline, captures everything on film. The situation becomes even more alarming when the officer threatened to arrest the camera person.
Okay, you're going to jail too.
It's obvious that the officer could have taken a number of actions to handle the situation better. In December 2014, a shocking incident of police brutality was caught on camera. The footage begins with Officer Mark Magnus dragging a handcuffed man out of a patrol car. The man, Kent Lasnik, has been arrested for allegedly attacking a local liquor store clerk. As they made their way into the station, Magnus slammed the suspect into a refrigerator, and this caused him to begin bleeding from the nose. Once inside the booking area, things began to gradually get heated. Magnus and his partner eventually escorted Lasnik to a cell, and that was where the situation took a turn for the worse. While in the cell, Lasnik appeared to aim a slap at Magnus, and the officer immediately responded with extreme violence. The footage shows Magnus punching Lasnik several times on the cell bench, as well as on the floor. He even flings a chair across the room in a fit of rage. The disturbing footage quickly went viral. Magnus was fired less than a month later and pleaded guilty to assault, receiving a year of probation for his actions. In a shocking incident that took place in September 2014, former South Carolina State Trooper Sean Grubert pulled over a motorist named LeVar Jones at a Circle K gas station northwest of Columbia. Jones was stopped for a seatbelt violation, and what happened next was nothing short of a nightmare. As captured by the dashboard video, Jones stepped out of his car, and Grubert asked him for his license. But as Jones reached back into his car, Grubert suddenly panicked, ran for cover, and drew his gun. He fired at Jones 4 times. Even as Jones raised his hands and backed away, one bullet hit Jones in the hip and he fell to the ground. Shocked and injured, he asked Grubert what he did and why he had been shot.
What did I do, son?
In a move that could have proved fatal, Grubert handcuffed the injured Jones and left him lying on the ground until an ambulance arrived.
Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back.
Fortunately, Jones survived the shooting. Grubert was fired from the highway patrol and pleaded guilty to assault and battery of a high and aggravated nature, receiving a 12-year sentence, which was later suspended to 5 years. There is no doubt that the incident could have been entirely avoided if the officer had taken a moment to assess the situation before drawing his weapon.